This is Brownie's Podcast!
Hey, this is Brownie's Podcast. Today on the show, Dicks, Drugs, and Danny Dickfos. Also, big...
Oh,
Mate,
that's huge.
well, hang on.
Danny
If you're-
Dickfos, an old teammate of mine.
If you're turning off now, then you're insane. Also, we're going to get an update on Acker's crypto, are we not?
Oh yes, we are.
Dog's not here. He's at a flash golf course. Which one?
Barnbougle in Tasmania.
Right.
The Star of the North, Northern Tassie there. Not sure though why he's in Barnbougle when you really should be here for the podcast.
No shit. This
What is this, like an ODO? I didn't realise you
I
had
know.
a-
He just called me and said, mate, not going to be there playing golf. I was like, but you get paid to do this.
What is the reason for it?
Yeah.
Bros, can you sit in Brown Dog's chair? Because you just take over his job for today. Can you sit in that one?
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
can you
Turn
come
that-
across.
Am I going to get my head on the poster?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
You will today. What we'll
yeah.
do is we'll get him to edit out his head,
Yeah.
and we'll put your head in just for today's episode, bros, because we don't want you getting too far ahead of yourself. Did you watch the cricket?
Nah, but I've been hearing nightmare shit about it. What's the time zone like for it for Melbourne?
I think it's great because it starts in the early afternoon.
Right.
Well, it starts at about lunchtime, doesn't it? Early arvo, and it finishes about 8 or 9 o'clock. So it's fantastic.
What am I missing? What is this disaster? Why is it
Well, we
happening?
batted well the first time, and because obviously our first test disaster was terrible where we played from the crease. And then the second test, I don't know what got into us, the second innings, where we decided that we must go out and try and sweep every ball, no matter if it's your first ball or your 100th ball.
No shit.
So we're 1 for 60 at the break of play, came back the next day, all out for about 120. Pat Cummins, first ball duck.
Someone told me-
Steve Smith embarrassed himself with another terrible sweep. Everyone was just sweeping. So
Someone
it
on
must
the-
have been the orders.
Someone on the WhatsApp thread reckons Pat Cummins is coming back between tests, and they're fired up about that because he should be there fixing this broke machine that is our test team.
Well, his batting was... he's not known for his batting, but how bad was that shot, bros?
Yeah. They shit the bed. Unfortunately, that's the only way you can describe it. They've shit the bed entirely. We've gone there full of hope, thought we'd steamroll them, and we have barely shown up. Much like the Brisbane Lions of 2012, 2013,
Jesus.
2014.
I don't know how he's turned this into
wash your
an
mouth out.
attack on your team, your former team.
Absolutely. It was disappointing, though. It's embarrassing to be an Australian supporter.
Wait,
It's
are we
obviously
just
tough
being-
following
wait
those
a minute.
spinners, but...
Are we being a bit precious? Like, we're all so heartbroken. Can't we just have a shit patch?
Well, not really, because these guys are paid professionals. They're grown men. You want them to at least have more in their repertoire than a sweep shot.
Yeah.
Now, you reckon? Like, just because the coach stood up, Andrew McDonald stood up before the day's play and said, hey, boys, let's go for the sweep. Don't worry about the blocking the ball or defending or just maybe easing a couple of singles down the fine leg or through cover over mid-wicket, whatever it may be.
Silly
Don't try and
mid-off.
sweep when... How many blokes would sweep... Silly mid-off.
Silly. That's a...
That's a great position,
Yes,
isn't
it
it?
is,
Silly
mate. It
mid-off.
is.
Hey, I've got another one. What do Mark Latham and Steve Smith have in common?
Is the answer...
Titties. Titties. They've got
What?
titties.
Mate,
That's what he's got. He's got titties.
Looking at
He does
Steve-
have titties. He
No,
does have
he
titties.
does not.
Smith has titties.
Pull up a
Yeah.
photo right now. Steve Smith, is it not possible that he has...
Mate, watching him after his terrible sweep shot where he's lifted his head to the sky, as he was trudging off the oval, wherever the oval was, his man boobs
Whoa.
are
Whoa.
huge.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So,
Whoa.
mate, he's either been pumping a shitload of bench press, he's been working on the, what was called the pec deck.
Yeah, I reckon-
Or he's been eating up.
No,
He's had a big off-season.
It's because they point down. Because they point down,
His titties.
that is, that's titties. If they point up, that's a peck.
All
Because there's
titties-
muscle there.
All titties or his titties?
His titties, they are pointing down.
Okay.
Look, they are pointing down, which is... like,
Bad.
yes, but that signifies a titty.
So you're...
Peck, up, titty, down.
All right, sure.
Are you saying that, suggesting that Steve Smith needs a
It might be
breast
time.
lift?
It might be time.
Wow.
Might be time.
This is a huge revelation that Steve Smith has had too much chicken. The estrogen in the chicken
Yes.
is causing him to have a great
Titties.
rack.
Man boobs. So hopefully he can get a 2-for-1 package. He can get a breast lift and the surgeon can teach him how to sweep while he's in there.
All right, let's go to serious stuff. Jack Ginnivan. Everyone loves to jump on this kid. This might be warranted this time. What the hell's happening? Update us, John.
Bros, do you want to go through the details?
Yeah, so over the weekend, a video was doing the rounds, which it often does in boys groups, and then it went a bit further and started getting sent around to a lot of different people, and it was of Jack Ginnivan at a Torquay pub
In late Jan.
in a cubicle after I believe it was a team camp in, was it Torquay or Lawn or something like that?
Yeah,
Anyway, they were in the Torquay pub, and he was in a cubicle with another friend, and they were engaging in illicit drugs, essentially.
So allegedly smacking bags with
Yes.
friends in a toilet cubicle, which when you're that famous is a questionable decision.
Yes.
So what happened? So did someone reach
Yeah,
up
so
and
someone
film
stood
the
over
moment?
the cubicle and got their phone out and filmed down and saw Jack and his friend engaging in the,
Right.
It seems like opportunistic behaviour, I would have thought.
It does, and then he came out and said, and then he got in front of it, which you have to respect a lot of, he didn't go the Wayne method, didn't go the anti-inflammatories at the casino, didn't go that.
Wayne's Duck's still holding on to that, isn't he?
Yeah.
Surprisingly, he also dropped the case
Text-
against the
like-
Crown Casino, which was weird.
John, I know you got Duck's number. Text him right now and still saying, still holding on to the anti.
I wouldn't have thought so. There was talk that it was obviously a substance. There was talk of cocaine, and then there was reports also it was ketamine.
And he came out and said, I've engaged in illicit drugs. And then, you know what? He was remorseful and said, I shouldn't have done it. I was in a bad spot. And I decided to do that. And again, he's come out.
Too much.
Drank
Poor
too
decisions.
much. And now he's been suspended for 2 practice games and 2 games and also given a $5,000 suspended fine.
Right.
But he's come out and he's brought the issue again. We had Bailey Smith in 2022.
Yep.
And how many times have we heard it over the last 5-10 years? And it's becoming more prevalent in society, and it's becoming very prevalent in the AFL too. And we have our head in the sands because we think that these players aren't doing this when in reality we know that they are. We know there's a huge percentage.
Like without doubt. I've been
Yes.
living in inner city Melbourne for like 10 years.
Yes.
And it's just so common.
So educate me, boys, because I'm from the old school. Obviously, I come up with some of those hard-nosed boys in the early 2000s at Lions and loved a beer. Every now and again, we'd have a couple of darts, especially Uncle Martin. But that's beers and cigarettes.
Yeah.
So when did it transition over to where the go-to is illicit substances, and how much? How much is it actually happening? Like, is the AFL just a reflection of current society? Like, is it 50% of the list? Is it 25% of the list? Like, if I'm a captain and I'm married and I've got kids and I'm sort of out of that scene now, would I be worried if I'm the captain of an AFL club?
I reckon a team would be a rough, or not an exact, but a microcosm of a society. So
Yes.
you'd have your straight-laced ones, but a core group of every team are going out and doing this all the time. It's just true.
And you walk into any restaurant or bar or nightclub and you see so many people doing it. It is, and a lot of the time it used to be hidden and people, you heard of it. Now you see it in public. You see guys go into a cubicle. You see people on a dance hall that might be huddling away and that, are all huddling over something in someone's hand. And you know what it is? It is so prevalent. And mate, Dino, I know it is everywhere. I don't think I've ever seen it like this before. Even from when, in my 31 years, even when I was 18, it was quite rare.
Yeah.
Now it is it's more common than it is uncommon.
Yeah, you go into any club in the city on a Saturday night, and you're right, bro. It's unashamedly multiple people in cubicles, only doing one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it to me, it's become so normal that I see these headlines and I'm like, not shocked.
Yeah.
So what is not normal is that obviously these players are held in high regard and they've got a tremendous responsibility for a short period of their life.
Cashed up.
So should we give them an excuse, or they should be held to a higher standard and just say, well, you either got to suck it up for that short period of career and not put yourself in those situations, and they're the sacrifice you need to make, or we just got to accept it and just give them a little slap on the head, because at the end of the day, it's a slap on the hand 2 weeks.
Yep.
Now, the public notoriety is not great, so that's punishment itself, no doubt about that. Or should we be going for a heavier penalty, like a 6 or 8 week penalty? So yes, the player would feel like he's been ostracised a little bit, but of course internally the club's going to put their arms around him, and the players are. But make it a big 6 or 8 week penalty, which affects you on the field and affects your teammates on the field as well, to get the message across.
Well, Jack Ginnivan's next time he does this, it's not going to be the same punishment,
No.
right?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so.
But
No,
also,
no.
handing one person a 6-week penalty, that doesn't deal with the systemic issue that is going on in broader society or amongst the younger players of the AFL or the middle-aged players. It doesn't address it at all.
But is that a warning shot, though, to obviously Jack Ginnivan? He'd be on the back foot and be nervous about it doing it again. But is that a warning shot to the other playing group of that team and probably the rest of the competition?
Nah, I reckon they just get privater and smarter about how
Exactly.
they do the drug
all of a
use.
sudden, they're not doing it at a nightclub. They're doing it at home with friends. And everyone has to have their phones in a bowl so no one can be filming, and they're still going to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop them doing it
You would
in
think,
any way.
and that sounds crazy, right, John? But they're just still going to do it.
Yeah, it's hard. I come from that. I've never put anything up my nose or done drugs or any of that sort of stuff. So it's hard for me to relate to it. Hard for me to understand it. But I'm not naive enough to know that it doesn't go on. We go out and I see people like honestly, I've never seen more weak bladders. Weak bladders amongst young men than at a Christmas party if you go out to a nightclub late December. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to get a piss because they've got the cubicles used up.
Yeah, this will not be a popular thing to say, but it's similar to alcohol in some people take their drugs smarter than others.
Yeah,
exactly the same as alcohol.
Absolutely, yeah. I've put a fair bit of thought into this because my initial reaction is if I'm a teammate and I'm a player, just suspend them. But I think I've certainly mellowed because I know it's a reflection of society and you want to get the best out of the players.
Yeah.
And certainly when you're a teammate. Yeah, I think Darcy Moore got criticised for saying, I'm disappointed in his actions. Like, I think a lot of the people out there were baying for blood. They wanted Darcy Moore to come out and say, give him a big old-fashioned whack in the media. You don't do that. You get around your teammates, because they're young men.
Yeah.
Jack Ginnivan's in his third year. Well, he's 21 years old. They're going to make mistakes, especially with a few beers under your belt.
Exactly.
So I've come around to it and I've mellowed. And so I tend to agree with the punishment and the way they deal with it going forward. And instead of just sticking him out in an island for 6 or 8 weeks, I'm not sure the actual benefit of that.
Well, it didn't help Cuzzy, did it? And you could argue that Ginnivan's going that level of fame, and in this current trajectory, he's going for that level of fame.
Yeah, what I actually respected too, Broads, when you come up next, but what I respected too, he didn't pull the mental health card because last year he had some mental health issues. He may have missed a game or two, I'm not sure. But at least he didn't use that as the excuse.
Yeah.
He didn't come out and say, the reason I got on the drugs was because my mental health is struggling. I'm glad they didn't pull that card because I feel as if that card gets used too freely. And I've had experience with people close to me that have had mental health problems that are real.
Yes.
And the problem is when you keep throwing out, attaching my drug use is because of my mental health, well, then people gradually start to glaze their eyes over and go, really?
Man.
You pull that card
Dilutes the
out?
issue, doesn't it?
It does.
Absolutely.
Did you ever in your time, and it didn't necessarily have to be drugs, but have a young player that you could see was just heading in the wrong direction, not both professionally and in his own personal life, and you could see that this only ends in one way. It ends in him getting kicked out of a club, doing something, being locked up. And did you pull him aside and try and rectify that behaviour?
Yeah, absolutely, you try and rectify it, no doubt about it. But quite often when you're not that way inclined, when you've got a strong leadership group and strong leaders there, it doesn't tend to happen as much. But when you've got that younger group, it's hard to know what's going on really when you're one of the senior players because obviously the guys are going to try and hide it from you.
Yeah, they hide it.
You know what I mean? So you hang around in those small circle of mates and they obviously only hang around those like-minded people in those sort of situations late at night when they've had a few drinks. So absolutely, I pulled players aside. I remember once where Albert Proud had a few issues and unfortunately, he wasn't able to get himself straight and he ended up in prison. He was a teammate of mine there. But we tried different tactics, we had, where players, the player would get punished, the group with the player would get punished. And then one stage, I know with Proudy, he stuffed up and got locked up on the weekend. We turned up on the Monday morning, getting ready for a rest week during the middle of a pre-season, and Vossi wasn't happy about it, which had every right to be. So he then punished the whole group. Now, Proudy wasn't there. I think he might have been still in the lockup, but the whole group paid the price for it that day and got absolutely pummeled for 2 hours on the footy field. That didn't work as well. So sometimes...
Vossi put his feet up and made the rest of the boys run laps.
And you know what? I'm not blaming Vossi for that. But, that's the coach just trying stuff because we were probably out of options. And we saw that with Cuzzy, obviously. That was front and centre for everyone to see.
The tricky thing is, so many players and people in functioning society take drugs successfully.
Yeah.
To a point that their life doesn't fall apart. The shit thing is that the people that are susceptible to a really dark path, they can't avoid that. So what am I trying to say here? It's done successfully by so many people in society, professional society, that it's not going to stop because of that.
Yeah, I don't think that's right, but I think playing football's a different thing. Playing elite sport is different. So if you're a chronic user or relying on it, I don't think you're going to be able to play your best sport certainly in the medium to long term, that's for sure. And the excuse that I know certainly in elite football, this has been used that I take drugs because it's better for my skin folds. That's the greatest crock of shit I've ever heard.
I haven't heard that.
Maybe
but
because
I
because I don't put on as much fat because alcohol.
Wait, isn't that meth that makes you skinny? Like some players are going to the glass
mate.
barbecue.
The dietitian. So I've just been twirling the pipe a bit, and that's really you look at I'm in
How did I
fantastic
lose
shape.
weight? Oh, clouds in a little glass pipe.
Mate, but I could never cop that excuse because
That's bullshit.
that's just a excuse
come
not to
on.
work hard because you're in the horrors.
Come on.
Great thing about at the Lions back in the day, and we had plenty of boys that were hard. They go hard on the beers and have and after a big win on the weekends, whatever it may be, or during the pre-season, they always turned up Monday morning ready to work and work their guts out.
Yeah.
And you could see the booze oozing out of them through their pores, but they train. They didn't make it an excuse. So, I've heard that excuse bandied around a few times. Let me put it on the record and let me put it straight. That's the greatest load of shit I've ever heard. So if you're going to use that one.
That's a wild one.
And as I said, I'm glad he didn't pull the mental health card as well. So let's hope for Jack's sake he can move forward and have a good season after he's done his suspension.
Yeah.
But the 2-week suspension, with the public notoriety of it, there's certainly more punishment on top of that than just 2 weeks.
Mark my words, this will be the first Coke chat of the year. Coke chat, baby, Coke chat. I'm sorry.
I like that. You might need a sting for that, mate. An official sting.
Aaron Rodgers. Let's get on to Aaron Rodgers. Who's got this?
I was interested. Aaron Rodgers, the famous Green Bay quarterback. He's been quarterback there for 18 years.
Yeah.
He's a 4-time MVP. It's like winning the Brownlow 4 times.
He's like the Lance Franklin of the NFL. He's just the biggest name in the game.
On $50 million a year.
Competitive.
39 years old. There's talk that he may leave Green Bay, may go and play for another team, or may just retire this year. So what he's actually doing, it's actually got quite controversial, but it's been in the big news the last few days, is that he's going to a darkness retreat for 4 days. Now, if you're unaware of what a darkness retreat is, it's where you go somewhere. I'm not even sure if there's any here in Australia, but there is some around North America. You go into a dark room and for 4 days straight. So that's 96 hours if you do your calculations.
Like the lights turn down?
No, the light's completely off. So you've got no light. Now, the door is locked from the inside, so you can leave at any time, but there is no light, there is no sound, there is a bathtub and a toilet in the middle of this dark room.
And some magic mushrooms.
No, you have to be sober the whole time. You can't be sauced up going in. You have to be fully sober.
Yeah.
And you get a meal once a day through a double-sided door.
This is
Put it into the slot, they close the slot, and then they tap on the door, and then you get your food out. So it's interesting, isn't it? 96 hours. So supposedly you go into a deep meditative state. He obviously gives you time to think, be left with your thoughts.
Yeah.
Can have hallucinogenic effects at stages
Naturally.
if you can really get to the deep parts of your soul.
ayahuasca.
I can only imagine what Aaron was doing there by himself in the darkness.
Having a pull.
With 2 hands.
No.
He was pulling 10 times a day.
No, well, he's only just gone in. So he's only just gone in.
Oh, well,
and
he's
probably
pulling as we speak.
Could be pulling as we speak. Now, the retreats date back to centuries, to the days of the monks and lamas of Tibet and the Egyptians as well. So it's been done for a long time, and that's what Aaron's doing. So it's just an interesting thought, isn't it?
I tell you who needs the meditative room? Campbell.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
He needs the darkness.
Just in general for his temperament.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, he probably. How would Dog go with it? Like, how would you go with the boredom?
Yes, that's a good point because he's a fidgeter. He's got this ADD mind that is constantly simulating.
Yes.
So him alone with his own thoughts, I reckon that'll have the wrong effect.
He gambles 24 hours a day on his phone.
He can't check shit in the dark.
No.
There's no way known. He'd really struggle without that phone, wouldn't he?
What would be the Brownie podcast equivalent of the dark room?
So we black out Campbell's world for the whole podcast.
Yeah. Because he wouldn't last 45 minutes.
No.
What about a box on his head, like a a portable blackout room.
Well, is it realistic that we could black out one of the studio booths in here, bros?
Technically, but it would be a bit difficult because we want to see, obviously, and we want to be
it's
with
not
Campbell.
for us.
Yeah,
it's not for us. We're
It's just got it has to be
suggesting
Campbell, so we need to isolate him.
Yeah, okay.
That's part of his penance for not being in the podcast today.
But if he's here just with a blindfold, I don't think that's enough.
No. There
Because
needs
he
to
can
be
still hear us.
Yeah.
He'll be peeping under. There needs to be a box, a blacked out box over his head for this to be a successful
like a bucket on his head.
experiment.
So, a blindfold and a bucket on his head.
Well, it's got to be fully dark.
Fully
Mate, with a bucket on your a blindfold and a bucket on your head.
And we can sponsor the cardboard box.
Absolutely.
And we'll call it something.
Well, the good thing is that he can still hear things. So there'll be sound, unlike Aaron Rodgers' Dark Retreat, where it's completely mute for 4 days. So that's going to be a challenge. What about going to the toilet? Now, hopefully Brown Dog doesn't have to go to the toilet.
He just can't. If he can't hold on for 40 minutes, he's a child.
Yeah, but how would you go to the toilet?
Well, Broads would hold a plastic bottle below his member, and he'd just let it flow.
Really? Yeah. What about, would you jump in the bath straight after you've gone to the toilet?
Yeah. I guess.
Like when it comes to wiping your backside, does it sort
Sadly
of...
going down this road.
Well, obviously, when it goes to wiping your backside, obviously you need to check.
I don't think, Broads, you have to do that. That's too much.
That's probably above the pay grade.
All right.
What are you suggesting?
So
are you suggesting Broads is going to wipe Brown Dog's ass?
Well,
it would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice of me.
No, but I'm serious because this could happen during the filming of the 45-minute podcast.
he's
next
not
week.
going to. The toilet thing isn't an issue.
Well, if he's had a coffee and all of a sudden he needs to go,
Not once in our history has someone had to leave the studio to do anything.
it could happen.
All right, it could. You're right. So wait. So just to get this straight, we're going full Aaron Rodgers with Campbell on the next podcast.
Yeah.
Yes,
We're blacking him out.
Yeah, we're blacking him out.
completely blacked out. I think I want black goggles with a black hood and then a black bucket over the top, maybe for a little gap for the microphone to fit into.
Well, Broads is increasingly busy with his other job, so we might have to do some arts and crafts with the box, me and you.
Okay.
Ads, and then after this, we're talking about the Carlton draft, where Jonathan is the what's your role?
I'm in heavy negotiations.
What's it called?
The commissioner.
Next.
This is Brownie's Podcast.
Welcome back to Brownie's Podcast. Last year, Carlton draft, the beer empire, hired Brownie to be the commissioner of a fictitious league where he drafts legendary players to go play in the bush. Now, this went real well.
You will do anything for money, won't you? You've
Mate,
shameless.
no,
Absolutely shameless.
I've been with CB for 15 years.
Oh, we know,
Proud ambassador of Carlton Draft, the best beer on earth.
You know what? I've
Don't
still
about
never
some
got
of
a
these craft
slab.
beers in the side.
I've never got a slab of Carlton Draft from Brownie, ever.
No shit, man.
For 15 years, you suppose that you're this ambassador and you can make anything
Mate,
happen.
I've looked after you. I've looked after you over the journey. Don't you worry about that.
Say,
but
apologise to Jonathan.
apologise now.
Can I have a gift?
We'll cut your pay.
Here's the thing. You got huge names for this draft last year. Eddie Betts. Who else?
Daisy, Brendan Goddard, Cam Mooney, Nathan Jones, Alex Rance, Sean Burgoyne, Jared Roughhead. There was 8 last year.
Mate, that's humongous.
Yeah.
And there's still people that can play footy because that's the whole thing. They're going to play a game. My concern is, Broads, that because it went so well, they're doing it again this year. I reckon the players. I reckon you have no players of that standard
No.
to go for round two.
I've been searching the country far and wide. There've been some big names retired last year. Of course, Joel Selwood, the most notable. It'd be great if we could get Selwood over the line.
All right, so that's a lot of the budget.
Who else is going to make the list, you reckon,
Well,
Dave?
I reckon you should just go for legendary legends in general, not fit ones. So maybe call the great...
Like sort of Gary Ablett Jr.
Nah.
Chief.
Hey, the great Danny Dickfos.
Jakey.
Danny Dickfos.
Danny Dickfos, an old teammate of mine
Get
in
him up.
Brisbane Lions.
Talk about sizzle.
What about the great...
You know why we called him Jakey?
No.
Like Jake the Musk from Once Were Warriors.
Oh, he was domestically violent.
Yeah.
That's awful.
He was. He just looks a bit
Oh,
like...
excellent. Oh, excellent.
Important to point that out.
Yeah, a big family man, Danny Dickfos. I just want to clarify that.
Danny Dickfos. Welcome to the show, Danny, by the way.
Yeah, so he's going to get Dickfos for the draft at least.
Danny Dickfos was a hospital sort of... He was in charge of the hospital cleaning, so he would turn in his hospital cleaning outfits to training in my first year.
Really?
Yeah, so what us boys have been playing PlayStation or chasing chicks around the shopping centre.
Dickfos is doing what?
Wait, hang on. Was a pastime for players on days off to chase chicks around the shopping centre?
It sounds like it. It sounds like it, Brody.
Mate, I was
What?
Hey, bros,
Hey.
I was 17 years old.
Okay, that's important to point out. Bros, I was 26. What?
Married with 2 kids.
What? I just like going to shopping Westfields. Who else we got?
Westfield, Carindale.
The great Trent Noble. I would love to see Noble back on the
I
field.
played with Noble again.
I would love to see Trent Noble come back.
Foots. No. Hey, St Kilda great. He's now a barista. The great Morty Bromberg.
Morty Bromberg.
I would
How do we
love.
find him? Where's
He's
his
a
barista?
barrister. He's busy. Just go.
A barista or a barrister?
Yeah,
Which one, mate?
you've had a nightmare there, haven't you? You've had a nightmare.
He's a barrister.
You've had a nightmare.
But he can probably make coffee as well.
What about? I would love to see the pad.
Can he
I
get
would
you
love
off
to
a murder
see.
charge?
Yes.
I would love to see Ashley and Martin's own Brent Guerra. I would
God,
love to
that'd be
see him
nice,
run
that'd be
around.
nice.
Wouldn't that just be
I played
phenomenal?
with Brent Guerrera in the Teal Cup, under-18 championships all those years ago, and I saw him iron out a bloke, and the guy was asleep for 15 minutes. From Western Australia, it was
No
one of the
shit.
greatest hits I've ever seen off the side of the centre square.
2 words. Clive Waterhouse. Get him in the
God.
draft. Can you imagine?
He'd be huge, wouldn't he?
Mate.
This would be my. If I could play with this player, particularly if I played in again local footy, this would be my number one.
Yeah.
Damien Peveril.
Peveril.
Oh,
Yeah.
Peveril.
A name I have not heard
Oh,
in a
Damien
decade.
Peveril. I love Damien
Remember
Peveril.
when he knocked over our doctor, our big doctor, all
Was
those
that
years
Peveril?
ago? Yeah, that was Peveril. Just knocked him over, and Doc McConnell tipped over. And
Mate, these are all quality names that you should be telling Carlton Draft.
what
to be
about
hunting
Derek
down.
Kickett?
Oh,
Kick it would
Derek.
be amazing.
Yeah, Derek would be great.
Just get him in space and he'll put the ball on an angle and let it sail.
I
Let's be
loved
honest.
Cyril Rioli.
Cyril was still fit. He'll do it.
That's a big one. What about?
Mate, Cyril's the biggest one. If you could get Cyril, that would inject life
No,
back into this.
I would argue Lance Whitnell. If you got Lance Whitnell to play in a local
that's a
footy
big
game,
one.
that would get a bigger crowd than Cyril Rioli.
You run pies
Get
out.
him a lot of sunscreen. Get him some pies.
Yeah.
What else would Lance need?
I'm not sure.
A mirror, because he's beautiful.
So was Damien Peveril. 2 of the absolute poster boys of the AFL.
Boys, this is a fantastic idea, though, and I think this will last forever.
What
Because
about-
going out to country footy clubs
Yeah.
and helping out, and this year, I'm going to have a chat to all my boys,
Yeah.
whether there's 6 of them, there's 8 of them, there's 10 of them,
Mm.
whatever it may be, at the draft, when they do get selected to go out to their club, wherever that may be, around country Victoria or suburban Victoria, I'm going to ask them that, hey, boys, not only get out there and dominate on the field, I want
Yes.
you to dominate post-game as well.
Correct.
Because there's 3 or 4 boys sort of, sang the song and then quickly jumped in the car.
Really?
And made a quick exit.
That's a dog act, bro.
No, you got to stick around for the
No
post smash. You
shit.
got to have a good 9.
Yeah, that's going to be in their contract.
Okay.
All right. Yes, Campbell hasn't been here for the whole show. He's currently putting using a golf club right that is dick-shaped. You guys with me?
Get him on the phone.
His putter is a chrome penis.
Chrome penis.
Because can you imagine how funny he would find that?
He's obviously a shit golfer.
What country's he in? Is it New Zealand?
Tassie.
Oi,
Oh.
Doug.
Hey, boys.
Hello, Brown Dog. How's that chrome-plated cock going as a putter?
The penis putter's been, hasn't been finding the hole the way I would like it.
Did you work on that?
The penis has not been finding the hole, and that's it's a problem.
Well, that's what the putter needs to do, especially with inside a couple of foot. But I just birdied my first hole before with a nice 50-foot chip that went in.
That's big, mate.
job.
That's big. Hey,
Any albatrosses?
No albatrosses, but I did. I'm down here with my mate Big Jim, James Audie, and I outdrove him down the fairway on the first, and I handed him some tampons, and no one got offended down here,
No.
like what Tiger Woods did.
Yeah.
So obviously,
What the
that's
you talking
Dino
about?
is completely lost at
Is
the moment.
referencing Tiger Woods, who returned to competitive playing recently, and they were walking down with a good mate. Who was it? Who was he playing with?
Justin Thomas.
Justin Thomas. And after outdriving him, and then obviously because Tiger had broken his back, he just slipped a Tampax, like an American tampon, into his mate's hand and just said, "Listen, mate, I still got you."
Bit of humour amongst friends, It was
That's-
scored by-
Where did you get the tampon from, Brown Dog?
it's top shelf shit.
Because I wouldn't have thought there'd be a hell of a lot of boxes of tampons floating around Barnbougle.
Well, I always try and emulate Tiger Woods, not just on the golf course.
Sean, dog.
Dog.
Oh,
Hey,
dog.
Back to the penis putter. The penis, we've all seen the photo. It looks like a real, it's based on a real penis. Who molded that? Whose cock are you putting with?
Look, I don't know, but I went to a garage sale a long time ago, and I saw it,
Oh.
and I immediately thought I've got to have this. And I pull it out on corporate golf days, and it gets a little bit of a laugh, you know.
So you're saying you got to bring props to get a laugh, dog?
Sounds like it.
Well, you know me, mate. I've got to try everything I can.
Have you said the word "somebody stop me" yet on that course?
Not yet, but I'll be pulling it out tomorrow if I tip the way that I did. Now, how did the podcast go without me?
That's going
We're
well.
doing it.
Yeah.
Flying, mate.
It's going well.
Flying. The Carlton draft's coming back, hopefully, and I'm looking for players, looking for recruits this year. You've been crossed off the list very early after your performance all those years back.
Can you just give us a very loud WTB? You think it's big in Tassie. Give us a very loud WTB before you go.
All right. WTB, baby! This is Lost Farm Bugle. And, hey, guys, I'll tell you what I did do on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a whole heap of Ronald Dahl books and I read them.
Wow.
Well, unrecognisable to what I read growing up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's going
Because
on.
they're censoring it. Because there's some inappropriate words.
He's going on a rant.
I'm
How
going on a rant.
are we going to survive that the Roald Dahl books have changed? How?
I might leave you guys with that.
Hey, Brown Dog, what does Mark Latham and Steve Smith have in common?
Oh, what?
They both got man boobs.
Really?
Yes. Have a look at Steve Smith next time you see him trudging off after a dismissal.
Brother, have a good time. We love you.
Hang on. I can't let this week's podcast go without a what a whirl.
Oh, yeah, of course, go.
Spain has decriminalised sexual relations with animals as long as there is no physical injury that requires a veterinary visit. Can you believe this? This was done 2 days ago in Spain.
Wait.
Well,
So
you better keep that putter away from that horse, mate.
So you can have sex with an animal provided it's okay?
Provided it doesn't go to the vet.
Oh, that's no good. That is no good.
That is cruel.
That's
not
opening
good.
in a dangerous
That's not
door.
good.
We love you. See you, mate. Have a good one. See you next week. Ads back in a second.
This is Brownie's Podcast.
Welcome back to Brownie's Podcast. We're going to wrap this up very, very soon. Next week, we're going to speak to Nathan Broad about his penis. A lot of dick stuff.
Yeah, a lot
And
of dicks.
I hate to be that dick podcast, but
That's so fun.
this is a legit story next week. What do you guys got?
One thing before I go is that I saw it and I absolutely love this. So over the off season, Jack Graham, who plays for Richmond and is originally an Adelaide boy, and before, during the trade time, he actually went and toured Port Adelaide. But he told Damien Hardwick, as his family is from Adelaide, "Oh, mate, don't worry, I'm not going to any of the clubs. I'm just going there to, see mum, see dad, hang out for a bit, see the family and friends." Unbeknownst to, obviously, Dimmer, that he was touring Port Adelaide and had intended on going there. And it made me think, and then apparently day one of pre-season when he came back, Dimmer said, "So is Ken Hinkley your dad, is he?" Like, I just confronted him about the lie that he told him. And I just wanted to know, what is the worst lie you've ever told to Lee?
I don't know
Or
if
Bossy?
I don't know if it's the worst lie, but the one that stands out for me, Slab Day all those years ago.
Ribs, balcony.
When Muggsy tackled me off the balcony and broke me ribs.
Yeah.
I was honest to Lee. I said I'd broken my ribs.
Yeah.
There was rib issues. There was problems.
Yeah.
I lied to everyone else, but not Lee. However, I did tell a little lie.
What lie?
When he said, "How many beers you had?"
Yeah.
And I said, between 6 and 8.
Yeah.
I was on my 24th crownie.
Yes,
I'm very proud of that fact. I was on the
I know you
24th
are.
crownie, but I didn't think it would go down that well if I said to Lethal I was halfway through my 24th.
So you said 6 to 8.
6 to 8.
What did he say?
No, that's responsible, isn't it?
Yeah.
He just nodded his head.
Yeah.
There he is. Hey, young fella being responsible again, getting ready for another pre-season.
Meanwhile, Pitbull has tackled you off a balcony. Hey.
See you next week. Listen up to the podcast anywhere.